Hello, I'm here today with Marv Newell, and I'm Duke, and we at WCP are about to publish his book. Right, actually, when you're watching this, we might have already published it, but uh, we want to learn about the book, learn about Marv, get to know him, and for those who are fans or who don't know him, this is a chance to see this. This is actually a momentous event for William Carey Publishing because it's our first novel that we're publishing. And for those that know us, you might not have even realized that, but this is a big deal. So why don't we start, Marv, with you just telling us a little bit about yourself and you've had a long career in missions, so just fill us in.
Sure, Duke, I'll be glad to do that. Thank you actually for doing this interview with me. I really appreciate it, especially featuring this new book, which is entitled Taking You Under My Skin. And it's a novel about a love story as well as some war and reaching unreached peoples. And this is why, no doubt, your publishing company is willing to publish it, is because it does focus on unreached peoples. But let me tell you a little bit about my pilgrimage in missions. It has been a really rewarding one through the years, over 47 or so, 8 years. I've been engaged in missions. First, my wife and I went to Indonesia, Irian Jaya, it was called back then. Indonesia, we were field missionaries there for quite a few years. I then became the Asia director, East Asia director for my mission for a few years. And then I was asked by Moody Theological Seminary to come and head up a brand new program of intercultural studies that they had just begun. So I went to Moody and spent 8 years teaching their intercultural studies. After that, I was asked to become the executive director of an association of missions, which over time merged with another one and became Missio Nexus. And I would think that most of your listeners are probably familiar with Missio Nexus. And I spent the last, 12 years of my life with Missio Nexus, ending up as the missiologist for that organization. So yeah, that's been my journey in missions. It's been a very rewarding and delightful one, frankly, to do all those things.
Very good. And we can see the fire there in the background. It looks very cozy. Where are you today?
Yeah, we are in southwest corner of Michigan, and although this is April when we're doing this, it's actually a little chilly out. So threw a fire in the fireplace today to kind of warm things up.
Yeah, well, it looks very nice and cozy there. So
Thank
tell
you.
us, have you written a lot of novels? Like, why did you write this book? What motivated you?
Yeah, this is my first novel. I've written other books, five other books, but this is the first one that's a novel. And I wrote this to promote awareness of still unreached people through the power of narrative, using narrative. Everyone likes a story. Even Jesus masterfully used stories to convey nuggets of truth. Uh, and so this book is designed to do that very thing, hopefully hold people's attention as it guides them consciously through the life of the unreached peoples and gives a picture of what it takes to reach these people.
Very good. And I can say, having read the manuscript, that, when publishers get a lot of stuff in, and we read them and are trying to decide should we publish it or not. And we wanted to be real careful. Like when we were thinking about what's going to be the first novel that we publish, you want it to be something that's going to be good because it sort of makes or breaks the future. And, often when you get these manuscripts, we get a lot, and so you're thinking, okay, I got to read through all these, and some of them you skim, some of them, you sort of get a picture or a feeling for the book. Yours, I couldn't, I didn't skim it. I actually read it. I was very
Oh,
engaged. It captured me. So I,
good.
I do recommend it. It's a great story. But who is your sort of target audience? Who are you thinking of, or who were you thinking of when you were writing it?
Well, Duke, I was thinking about believers who are still pretty much unaware of unreached peoples. I wanted to capture their attention both to the need and to what it takes to reach unreached peoples. It's a difficult thing to reach the unreached peoples and the remaining unreached peoples that are out there, and there's like 7,000 people groups that are still considered unreached. It's a hard thing to reach unreached peoples, and it's portrayed in the story that I tell. The context is in the Southeast Asia area of the world, and I use that area of the world because it's the one that I'm most familiar with.
Yeah, the it's dealing with uh, such a lot of drama in the story. Very captures the sense of you've got small town, you've got across the world, a lot of different cultures, a lot of up and down. Uh, you came up with this title, "Taking You Under My Skin." Tell us about that. It's very unique and not so clear when I first think of it. What's that book about? Like, what's up with the title?
Well, Duke, many from our older generation, like you and me, have probably heard the rendition of the song "I've Got You Under My Skin" that was written by Cole Porter way back in the 1930s. And the thing that's unique about that song is that it takes an expression of irritation, of being under your skin, using mean you irritate me, and it switches it completely around to have it express affection and commitment and love. And so, kind of based on that story and that song, I've titled the book "Taking You Under My Skin," drawing the story about an isolated tribal group that Mike, who's the main character in my story, he actually discovers that these people way out there in Southeast Asia, in the foothills of the mountains there in Southeast Asia, actually use that phrase as a phrase of endearment. And so he's able then to pick up on that and to actually make a redemptive analogy out of it so that the people that he was now living amongst would be able to understand the essence of the gospel.
Yeah, and so we want people to, we don't want to give away too much. We want them to read the book, but you've told and you've mentioned just a little bit. Tell us, like, give us sort of the plot synopsis or a little bit more about what happens in the story.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that. Well, in the foothills of northwest Laos, there's an unreached tribal group that lives unaware of the gospel until a Christian American Army medic is captured and brought to their village. He's captured in Vietnam and brought to their village. And so, against this backdrop of the Vietnam War, the book imagines a mountain tribe, which, by the way, I used a real real tribal group in Laos, but I changed their name around a little bit to portray in the book. And so they have an encounter with Jesus, and through this captured American medic, and it transforms their lives forever. And so it tells a story about a guy named Mike Nielsen as he miraculously escapes death at their hands. He's just about ready to be killed by them, and is able to then bring a message of life to them that they've been longing to hear for generations. And now, during his captivity, at the same time, his fiancee, Lisa, clings to hope that he will return. And so she patiently waits for his return. And meanwhile, while she's doing that, she dedicates herself to translating a Bible into a previously unwritten dialect in a neighboring country, which happens to be Thailand. And the two never knew that they were close by to each other until the end of the story. And I don't want to tell you the whole plot, but
Yeah.
eventually they do meet up with each other at the very end.
Okay. Yeah, well, don't people have to read to figure it all out and see how it all ties together. The you choose to put it in sort of the context of the Vietnam War at one point. What sort of drove that choice?
Well, Duke, as you would be well aware of, the Vietnam War is probably the most misinformed and misunderstood wars of recent American wars. And so I wanted to bring to remembrance the context of that unpopular war by putting it over there. And also it gave me the advantage of putting my missionary in that setting, close to Laos, so that we were able to get him there. So it does depict war, and there are war incidences within the book that seem to be appealing to those that read it. But there's still a lot of Vietnam veterans out there, and I'm hoping that they will read the book as an affirmation for their undervalued service that they performed in Vietnam. I recently saw that there's about 3 million Americans who served in the country of Vietnam during the course of the war. And at any one time, there's about 500,000 servicemen serving there. And so there's these 3 million people. Uh, Most of them probably still alive today in their 70s. And so I wanted to be able to help affirm them in their service through this using the Vietnam War.
Mm.
And also one of them who happens to be in my church was a wounded Vietnam warrior. And he was very appreciative. I had him read the story, very appreciative of the book. And he says it just is exactly realistically what I experienced, especially the helicopter coming in, the medevac helicopter coming in and picking me up when I'm wounded and taking me back out. So he actually became one of the endorsers of the book because he said it just brought back to me, to life, the experience that I had while serving there.
Yeah, well, that's great. And I can say from the other side, not from the war side, but the having read books like Bruchko and the Don Richardson story and other types of books, if you didn't know it was a novel when you read it, you might think you probably are asking like, did this actually happen? Is this a true story? Because it comes across like it could have been an actual, like you were recounting actual events.
I get that a lot from people that have read the manuscript. They said, I couldn't determine if this was true or not true. It is a historical fiction. It's fiction, but it's historical, and it's
Mhm.
based on historical facts and what took place at that time. I got guys like Henry Kissinger in it, if people remember him, uh, and also others that just really give it an authentic feel as you read the story. And for me, Duke, I had to do a lot of research on the Vietnam War and the helicopters, the guns, and all that kind of stuff that's used there, that's described, to bring that out because I was not in the Vietnam War. I was not there. So a lot of that was done by research. But then the second half of the book, the tribal situation and all, was something that I was able to just draw from my personal experiences of living among tribal people in Asia.
Hmm. Well, and this, when you see the cover, which I'll put in, they'll see it in the video, but when you see the cover, you recognize the sense that it's both war and in the Southeast Asia, it gives that picture there. And so you didn't just write a story, though. As you mentioned, you have some other ideas there. So what are some mission-related themes that sort of are running through, or sub-themes that are running through the story that you want to make clear?
Yeah. I wouldn't tell too many laymen this, but in this context of this interview, the audience that's listening in would understand this. I call this book narrative missiology, uh, a narrative that's designed to highlight missiological principles and practices, but in a very unobtrusive way and very subtly, they're woven throughout the story. And here are some of the themes that I have woven within the book: missionary calling, hardships and disappointment, tribal religious beliefs and practices, the power of prayer, Bible translation, redemptive analogy, divine visions, contextualization, third culture kids, ethnic tensions between tribal groups, church planting, power encountering, the importance of the sending church, the rationale for polygamy, and syncretism. All those things are just kind of woven very subtly throughout the narrative as it unfolds.
Yeah, that's great. And it definitely it comes out in the story very subtly. Like it wouldn't be necessarily somebody would say that, but once you list that list, having read it, I'm like, yeah, I could see how those come out, and you're making those points in a way that's much really more memorable and powerful than if you just sort of if all you did was give a bullet point list and sort of a paragraph about them. So that's really helpful, and I think it'll add to people's ability to understand those points more in context, and especially those who are I would even think people that are considering going into cross-cultural ministry. This is the kind of thing that puts some of those things hooks to put stuff on
Right.
later.
Yes.
Um, so for you, what would be your like what's the ideal sort of desired outcome? You think a year from now the book's published, it's out, people are have started buying it, reading it, passing it around. What's sort of this would be great if this was where we were
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, I really am desirous of two outcomes, Duke, for the book. One would be that after reading the book, the reader will feel more compelled than ever before to serve God in whatever context they happen to be in. And that doesn't have to be a missions context, but maybe a church context or maybe just whatever they're doing as lay people. They would feel more compelled to be a witness and to serve God because of the bravery, the courage, the dedication that they see come out in the lives of the people that are within my book. It's interesting that my very first copy editor that went through the book for the first time, after she did that, she wrote back to me and she says, I was so touched by this book. I just feel like I need to do more for God. I'm determined to do more for God because of what I read in this book. And then about 6 months later, she writes me back and she says, I'm so excited that my daughter, my 18-year-old daughter, is now going to go to college and major in missions because I told her about this book and let her read some of it. And she says it had a little part to do. And my daughter now going the direction she is in life. And I feel, wow, that's exactly what I want this book to do.
Mhm.
And the second thing would be that the readers would become more aware of the plight of unreached peoples and want to do something about that because we do portray in the book this tribal group totally without hope, without God in the world, you might say, and just living in debauchery and all kinds of things that are so um, degrading to the human experience. But then when they become believers in Christ, uh, all that changes and they completely become people that become conformed to the image of Christ because of the continued work of Mike as he continues in the tribe and discipling these people and continuing to work on their Bible translation. He's actually 25 years in the tribe and finally finishes translating the Bible for them so that they would have the entire, or at least the New Testament for them. And so, yeah, it portrays in a way what really, really could take place in a complete people group once the gospel enters their area. And I build that off of some people might say, well, rarely does a whole tribe come to follow Jesus, but what they do. My experience in Irian Jaya back in the 70s and the missionaries before me in the 60s, they saw the entire tribal groups come and become believers in Christ once the gospel was presented to them in a meaningful way that they could understand. And so it's very realistic that that can take place, and it has taken place in parts of the world. And so I want my readers to know that this can take place and to maybe reinforce their commitment to their missions program in their church and what's going on as they send out missionaries, especially to unreached people groups. So those are the two outcomes I'm hoping the book achieves.
Yeah, well, those are worthy for sure. And Marv, we thank you for writing this. It's a lot of writing a book, especially like this, is a lot of hard work, making the story fit, doing all the research, taking the time, and then the rewrites, and there's a lot goes on in that. So thank you for that service. Anything else before we close up here you'd like to say?
Well, I'm just very thankful to William Carey Publishing for being willing to stick their neck out on this book as their first novel. And I just hope that many more follow behind this one. And this might even uh, help push some writers out there to write on mission novels to help pass the word along of what it takes to do missions in today's world.
Amen. Maybe, maybe. We are grateful, Marv, and thank you for making the time to help our readers better know you and the book. And we look forward to seeing it get out there and get read.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it, Duke. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, thank you.